아예 뭐 있는 거 아니야? 이걸 그냥 다시 하는
그러니까 그냥 사람들이 빡친다 해가지고 넣으시는데.
Side of the policy because of Olympics.
Excuse speaker, now I'd like to invite the government whip to the podium. Here.
No, Olympics, all the reason here for us is improvement.
Okay, 10 minutes. 7 minutes.
Go through all your flashes. 하지 말라. reply.
출발 수도 있지 너무. Okay, what I'm going to do in this speech is win this debate with the first 40 seconds and then increase the margins with the rest of my speech. Now, let me hear the first 40 seconds. Look, this debate isn't about South Korea attacking North Korea. This isn't about South Korea, having done something for something that's normal, like talking to them or giving rights to them for a long time and then say, no, we're not going to talk to you anymore, and angering them. This is about South Korea creating a joint team, which has never been done before, which is abnormal even this kind of Olympics. And through that joint team, which is good, what's going to happen? That's the debate. So all of Sera's argument, which are contingent upon the basis that North Koreans are going to get angry and people are going to go sensationalize if we didn't have a joint team, it's pretty ridiculous at this moment. It's no more as to provide why if we didn't have a joint team, those guys are, how could you? We were expecting joint team because look, ice hockey isn't even North Korea's most important team. It isn't representative even of North Korean people. It is a pure political show, and for them to get North Korea to get presence, like Sera said, Olympics is a great place for Kim Jong to get presence and get recognition in the international society. That's why Sera's all of our expectations are good if our team was willing to bomb North Korea in a preemptive manner. Secondly, let's get this out of the way. Yes, it's true that South Korea allowed the participation, war allowed the participation, but as we told you before, it's because we were the hosting nation, we had entry. And fine, maybe North Korea can compete and come into the Olympics and hold the torches, but their burden of proof is to say why this joint team was necessary and why ice hockey team was necessary when they didn't want it, when the entire nation didn't want it. No argument on this and no answer here either, right? Firstly, question. Can we sacrifice individuals' most brilliant moment in their lives in the sake of the nation? Because that's what Sera's last ending argument was. That we can squish individuals' lives, right? Now let me talk about Olympics. It's the biggest sports event, agreed, right? But it also happens once in every 4 years. And players' ability to play sports decrease rapidly with age, so they get to compete at most once or twice a year. They built their career for 15 or 20 years to compete in the most brilliant moment, even if they don't make it to prelims. It's about them having a chance to join the biggest field and then playing, and then self-actualization of their entire career. But without prior discussion, without consent, they were unilaterally pushed for it. No, that's not factually true. The coach was pretty pissed at the fact that they were undermining the team's ability. No engagement here either. But even if there was consent, or even if there was consent, or even if you can't do it no consent because let's individually they sacrifice a few for the happiness of many, it wasn't for the happiness of the many either. Because we had heard no response from Moonyeol's argument that 96% of the population are against this. Because of the fact that we didn't go through due process, which is the main underlying fact behind why Moon Jae is elected in the first place. That's why it is not for the common good. It was just a few bureaucrats in a medieval fashion, pushing forward their policies. That's why it is undemocratic and that's why it's regrettable. No response here either. So when you don't have consent from them, when we didn't have discussion, when we didn't have consent from the players, but no consensus among the citizens, why can't we push it, right? To sacrifice. Because they are conceded to the fact that they sacrificed at the end of Sera's speech, basically. Secondly, question. How does sports and Olympics promote peace, right? Because this is funny, their first POS basically, why do we let refugees run? If their logic was true, we should let South Sudanese refugees run together with the Sudanese team, right? No. Quote unquote from IOC, because I work with these kind of people, IOC chair said that the spirit of Olympics is about the fact that as individuals, regardless of religion and race and nationality, you stand on the field and you are subjected by the same rules and you play as equal individuals. This is where the spirit of Olympics is. And why can't we, in their best case scenario, even if you accept everything, why can't you have them hold torches together, in the torch running thing, or why can't you just let them participate and compete against each other? why isn't it not enough to do that? Because that's what the spirit of Olympics is about. If their argument about this is true. So that's why Sera's argument about social message and the spirit of Olympics, gaining sensation, that all falls as well. Because they have to argue why the joint team was necessary, right? So when they talk about Taiwanese team, why then they are saying that unless we have the Taiwanese team competing together as a joint team with the Chinese team, then we won't have these kind of benefits, which I think is pretty ridiculous and against the spirit of Olympics, right? But the last question, do you have any questions?
The IOC disqualified a competent team to put South Korea in for political reasons. Why is this unjustified in the Olympic spirit? The IOC said good.
Like, we don't really, like, which house are you talking about, right? Like, we think that it's even more on that. No, we had an entry before the North Koreans came. Look, here's what happened, okay? IOC is supportive of the policy of having joint teams. But it wasn't like the IOC coming, guys, if we have the joint team, then we'll give you the entry and kick those guys out. That's not what happened. Stop mischaracterizing it, right? Thirdly, more to the important issue, which they never rebutted with, how do we have peace? They try to mischaracterize this debate as the debate between security through hardcore push from Northeast Asian coalition versus soil security through like open hands and warm loving rights and stuff, right? This isn't the debate like we told you in the first 2/3 of the debate. But even if so, let's get onto it. Because they didn't have any responses to all of our arguments regarding why we need the Northeast Asian coalition in order to push for that. We just recently had Russia and China on board for coalition to push the sanctions against North Korea first time forever, right? But they're saying that, okay, we're going to give them actually funding, we're going to give them more recognition, and we're going to have them join team. Then why is this necessarily good, right? They didn't explain at all. But also, we also told you that there has been an empirical tactic of two-facedness after symbolic peace process, which was not rebutted by them at all, right? We told you at Yeongpyeong, right after the World Cup soccer games, right? And when they told us, their basic characteristics, Kim Jong is not so sure about the current status quo and stance of Moon Jae-in, so that's why they're feel safer. That's not true. Moon Jae-in was pretty much open about it. Trying to talk to them, right? But here's the thing though, because North Korea depends heavily on brinksmanship and unexpectedness, that's why they attack right after the peace talks. So look, their biggest benefit from their side is, oh, we got a lunch, isn't that great? There were no promises and no backing down, no punishment for those people who got their legs chopped off, no disarmament of ICBMs, and their only benefit is that. Now they're thinking, you're more likely to think that, these are just suckers, let's attack, right? Why doesn't that happen? But even if your arguments were completely true, right? Even if opposition was right, they didn't rebut as to at all, because our elections, the general elections are coming up for National Assembly in South Korea, and 95% of people hate it. They talk to us about how, people have conflicts. No, like our second speaker said, now this is conflict about undue process. People are angry at it from left-wing parties as well. People are angry in the youth that usually support Moon Jae-in as well, regardless of how friendly they are to North Korea. It became more of a North Korean issue rather than delegitimizing Moon Jae-in's policies. That's why he's gonna have much harder time when he loses more party members during the next election. That's why it's gonna be even harder to have any peace talks if that is possible, okay? Let me end with quote-unquote what the leader of opposition said. Neither side can tell if this will be effective, but we think we will be effective. No analysis. This is why our team clearly takes the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Government Whip. Now I'd like the opposition whip to proceed with the speech of opinion.
Madam Chair, the question of today's debate is how do we best promote the goals of Olympics in terms of competition, peace, and cooperation? Let's talk about this into 4 levels. 1, by dissecting this domestic individual political interest. 2nd, South Korea and other stakeholders. Olympics as a platform. And lastly, in terms of East Asian security, right? Because the first issue that came out in this debate, which was very messy, and I really don't understand why it became the focus, is in terms of how do we balance this individual interest versus national and regional security, which is directly in line with the goals of Olympics, right? Because the first petty complaint was that, oh, the teams were created undemocratically. 1, I think this is a petty complaint. 2nd, so what, right? Because we already told you that, if we didn't create this, your individual interest will not be pushed through anyway, because there's no team to begin with that would exist, right? Because this team was only, provided with a certain spot because we lobbied it in order for that to be created, right? And I don't think that you can simply say that, oh, the bad thing about this is that we're losing money now because we keep funding them. But this is in line with the entire thing that South Korea is doing for North Korea, right? Even, in the present situation, we've given them a lot of aids in terms of Red Cross because it's supposed to be, the kind of trend political stance that we wanted to take. But then again, they say, oh, we'd rather dissolve this team, so that this is the thing that I find a bit contradictory in their stance, right? Because they want to push for individual interest, but they're also willing to dissolve this team. So in a marginal, if we were going to count it, at least in our team, there are some South Koreans who can self-actualize. And if you're going to say that you want to dissolve it, so like your principle will be gone in that particular metric, then that becomes very problematic. But I think the most interesting part, and the thing that they try to fool us, is in terms of like, oh, but there's no domestic support in terms of this move. Note, I think we've already raised to you that the society is always divided. And yes, Moonyeol was correct. The young doesn't like it because the young always doesn't like North Korea, right? The division is on the age in Korea. The old Koreans, the middle class Koreans are always for reunification. And this is a small step in order for us to reignite that discussion all over again, right? And that's something that we should actually clarify. For them to say that's 96%, that's 96% of young people saying no to this policy. But they disregarded the other demographic of the society. Now, let's move on to this anti-corruption and fairness, slogan that Moon Jae-in actually said, and they feel that it's actually against these things. We've already told you that the process was actually transparent. There was a clear lobbying, process that happened. And, Olympics, the OIC are actually really doing this. Like what we've already mentioned, like it's not that democratic. It's really more about making sure that we provide certain representation and spaces for people in order for us to push through with the other interests of the Olympics in terms of peace and security. But more so, let's talk about, I think this is the most important after the second point. The most important point of this to me in terms of South Korea, because the burden that they wanted to push on us is to give a guaranteed, peaceful relations, right? In order for us to prove that there will be, we need to understand the context of the situation in East Asia, okay? The context here is that there are always changes of political stances depending on who's the president of South Korea, right? You've seen Sunshine Policy was supported by certain president. Last year, Park Geun-hye was actually strict to South Korea. Now, we needed to make sure that we are actually certain that we're going to be, soft to South Korea, and in order for us to show that, we are not aligning with ourselves with Donald Trump, right? Because previously, we've also seen the showcase of bravado of these two presidents, right? Saying that they're going to bomb each other. But then again, the most important stakeholder there are the countries in East Asia, right? So it's important for you to be able to clarify what is your stance. And we think that creating this team sends the kind of message that we are actually not going to side with Donald Trump. Yes, we will say that maybe it doesn't have a long-term promises, but I think we will win the short term here, right? Because we don't like any random incidents that would actually threaten the security of the region, right? I don't think they can also win long-term harms anyway, but I think it's important for us to assess on the short term, right? Because there are a lot of aggravating retaliation from North Korea from the previous situation. But when this, hockey team was created, what happened? One, in the news today, right? Moon Jae-in was even invited to North Korea. And North Korea also is going to send a representative, Kim Jong-un, to have this diplomatic discussion in South Korea. And these are small things that we can actually give you to show that there is actually a better diplomatic relations now because of these minute things that we're doing. But then again, not yet. But then again, say, oh, but North Korea is always two faces anyway, right? So we asked them, so how do you want to deal with them then anyway? And they said, look, whatever ways. Like, you need to clarify what's your stance, right? But for you to say that whatever ways, that's basically the problem in North Korea when they get confused with what is really the stance of South Korea. At least in our side, we get to clarify this thing that, hey, we're not like the dotard there who's going to attack you, right? And that's actually the thing that we're saying. That, even though they're very impressionistic, at least in short term, we win this. Yeah.
Okay, let's say every single thing they you said is true. But why wasn't simple North Korean participation in the Olympics and holding torches together not enough? Why didn't you join Team Death Motion?
Because we wanted to show that kind of visceral image to the public as well, right? Let's talk about why this is actually the right thing to do and the timing is perfect, right? This entire concept of Olympics as the best platform. I think Sarah discussed this to you that, Olympics is a political platform in order for us to push all of these agendas that we have. Because one, it raises awareness, right? It also gains support, it normalizes better relations. Holding torches is too, petty, I think, as opposed to like seeing now North and South Korea playing a certain game that is actually possible for them to coexist in a certain court, right? Because like what we said to you, like there is an underlying third-party perspective of the region as well. This is something that government side never rebutted in terms of how it aggravates political situation in the region and how it aggravates economic backlash already, right? Northeast Asia is highly sensationalized when you're not here. That's why there's a lot of issues in terms of, economic funding, like investors afraid of going in or investors who want to go out because of all of these tensions. And what we want to do is at the moment you get to see that, there's actually a chance for them to get along. Look at them as sports. Perhaps that it sends a different kind of visceral image that there are actually improvement happening, especially when you have CNN trying to sensationalize a lot of things. We don't think they've actually responded to these things. So that's why at the end, if you happen to notice, yes, this thing is a minute act coming from the Moon Jae-in's administration, but at least it clarifies a lot of stances, right? And at the same time, it actually sends the kind of message that the region is stabilized. Otherwise, we'll always be in that situation again, during Park Geun-hye's situation, that every now and then it's as if like there's certain war that's going to break out in South Korea, right? But this thing actually somehow actually changes all of these situations. Thanks.
Thank you, opposition member. I'd like to reply the opposition reply to some of the opposition members.